Welcome to Know Your Rights Theater. We are not all lawyers, but the stuff we're going to tell you today is not meant to be taken as legal advice. We're coming to you today as community members who are concerned about demystifying the law and helping people better understand their rights. So we hope that this will be a useful experience for you. How many people here have been stopped or questioned or, by law enforcement? Either some folks, yeah. All right. Well, think about that experience and think about what that felt like. Think about maybe like an emotion that you felt. We're going to try to get into our thespian selves. We're going to try to channel some of that emotion. We all have these different experiences, and we come to this work with different experiences. And I think we need to acknowledge that everyone's experience is both different and unique and valid. And so we want to also acknowledge that people here are the experts, right? So we're here to talk about the content we're here to talk about, but you're the experts, right? So we want people to participate as we engage in this together and chime in, because there's no wrong answer. And can we all just agree before we go any further that we're going to respect each other's experiences in this space today?
Yes.
All right, awesome. Theater offers a way for us to kind of experience and deal with issues in a way where we can run through some scenarios without the real life consequences of running with the cops, right? So that's kind of what we're going to do today. If you haven't done role play, we're encouraging people to step up. But if you don't feel comfortable doing it, that's cool too. We'll pick somebody else. All right? All right. Come on, y'all. Who's it going to be?
Three. Okay.
Three? All right.
Go for it.
All right. Yeah. All right. We're going to step off the stage. All right, Patrick, you want to set up the scene one more time for us?
Sure thing.
All right.
Okay, students, you guys have just started college. It's your end of your first week after orientation, and a fraternity right across the street from the campus is having a party. So, of course, you're going to go over there with your friends that you met at orientation. So you guys are all just new friends or new acquaintances. You go over to the frat party, have a good time, have a couple of drinks, mingle with people there, and now you're just headed back to your dormitories on the campus. You're about to cross the street to go back to your dormitories. It's parting ways to go to your different places, and a police officer who's been patrolling the area is going to stop you all and give you some questions. So here's the scene. Go ahead.
Can I help you? Good evening. How's everybody doing tonight? Doing all right? Doing all right? Where y'all coming from this evening? A party. Oh, cool college party. College party. Y'all from around here?
Is there anything we done anything wrong, sir?
Well, have y'all seen any suspicious characters in the area?
No, absolutely not.
No. Sure.
I said no. Yes.
A little bit of fun. Oh, so y'all been drinking tonight? A little drinking and drugging, maybe?
No.
No? Smoking any of the wacky weed? What is this wacky? I don't know. You tell me.
Good job.
I don't know. Oh, that's my niece.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah, let's see her. You were the old thing. Okay. Where's your ID?
I don't have it. No, no.
You'll
She,
finish up. I'm gonna go run these.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. We stay in the same. She's mine. We're on a college.
Oh, all right.
No idea.
What's that supposed to do with you? You've been drinking beer.
This is Yours is going to take a minute. Actually, where are you from? Why don't you come over here with me, sir?
Okay. Is everything good?
Is there a...
We have to get sleep. We have
Have you done
exams
this-
tomorrow.
have you done this orientation?
I'm tired of this. It's
So there's no
12 o'clock in the morning.
partying going on?
Okay, I'm at 2. I gotta go.
So no drinks at this party?
I gotta go.
I don't drink alcohol. Only 18, not 21.
I'm gonna need you to just wait over here.
Yes, sir.
So,
He playing the crap out of the
you're driving? Alright. So, you know anything about this guy? How well do you know him? For a while. Is there any, do y'all have any, anything on you that we might need to know about? You sure? You sure? Do you mind emptying your pockets?
Don't really have pockets.
What about you? Do we need to know about? No, no drugs, no alcohol? Y'all been drinking at this party? You sure? Y'all wouldn't mind taking a breathalyzer test?
Sure, if that's what makes you happy.
You definitely don't have that in this time. All right, you don't, so you wouldn't mind, like, if I searched you something, into your pockets, show them things around? None? What about this one? She tried to run away. I think we're gonna have to take her.
Gracefully, I would say.
I think
I
we're
need
gonna
you to come get me.
have to take her. That's obstruction of justice.
Okay. Here. And you're like terrorizing me, sir. Don't do this, sir. Don't do that. Don't do that. This is a brand new watch.
I'm waiting for my director to call action.
Cut.
He's gonna bring them my distance to him.
Okay, cut.
Ta-da! All right. So let's hear it for our actors real quick. All right. So
I feel like, I don't know, I guess it's more so wanting to know what's wrong before we go any further. And it's like the question was not answered. And it's like the constant repetition of, is there anything wrong? Anything we can do for you? Why are you here? And never getting that answer. It's like annoying.
And even like with everything that's been going on in the news, you don't know what's going to happen next.
Right.
So just having that anxiety about what might happen in the time.
And you constantly, like, you ask, can I search your pockets? Even when you, like, what's the word? Like, agree to that, that's not good enough. And you still go further.
what about you guys? Were there things that y'all observed about what we were doing as law enforcement and what your peers were doing as participants?
You assumed that they had something on them, kept constantly asking them to verify, and then acknowledge that they said no, like they were lying.
Yeah.
I have a question though.
Sure.
When he came and got her, was she put in a jail cell or something? For her to sit down?
As best as we could do. She was not cooperating. That,
By the way, my character was supposed to be
she
outspoken.
was pretty outspoken. So I mean, things would probably have escalated from there if we had played it out any further. But
I think the new watch was a bad thing to say because I think that would only mean it went to his girlfriend.
Anybody else like observations about what you saw, like police doing, or what you saw?
This one had a real nasty attitude, and so sometimes the police come with a level of, I guess, preconceived notion about how they're going to treat you, especially if you're young, if you're black, and they
Right.
come and you haven't done anything there. I wasn't talking to you, I was talking to her. My question was, and it's like, whoa. So you have to like process that. Because I'm like her, that would have been
Yeah.
Were we all up in your personal space? Yeah, okay. One more hand for our actors, everybody. I want to bring Cassie Ford up here. She is a local attorney, and she's going to help us get down to some of the brass tacks about what your rights actually are and are not, and we'll talk about some of the policy stuff too.
So let's talk about what actually happened during that scene. There were some things that went right. There were some things that went wrong. So let's, kind of think about all the things that you saw and maybe some questions that you have about it. Now, the first thing that happened as the officers are approaching, one of the young ladies says, "Good evening." The officer says, "Good evening." So that was a kind of a good exchange, but what immediately happened after that?
He put the light on her face.
He put the light in her face, and what else?
Started questioning where they been and what they been doing.
He started questioning her. And they responded, we're coming from a party. Seems innocent enough, nice exchange, pretty decent. Wasn't quite that same attitude as towards the end, right? What, was that the right response?
Well, from the students, yeah.
So, remember that when you are being approached and questioned by the police, they're investigating. Whether it's a friendly conversation while you're being stopped or whether it's a hostile conversation, they're still gathering evidence. So anything that you're saying during that time, they're going to build off of that. So those later questions that happen with the, have you been drinking, have you been doing drugs? Well, you just said you came from a party, a college party. So with questions like that, the first thing you need to know is if you're being detained. So our first magical term, am I being detained? Can we say that together?
Am I being detained?
Am I being detained is a question to know whether or not the police are actually holding you, which means that you cannot leave. So we saw the young lady go off. Had we known whether or not she would have been detained, we would have had a better answer for whether or not she did the right thing. And when she came back, she was actually arrested for
Obstruction of justice.
obstruction. I think it's like irresisting arrest, obstruction of justice, whatever, that they said. But she just walked away. One of the things you need to know is, are you being detained? Which means you cannot leave. The second part of that is, am I free to go? This question you need to know is to protect you. When you ask this question, you're letting the officer know, hey, you said I'm not being detained. I want to make sure that I can leave this situation, because what you don't want to do is draw out the situation, because that leads to more questions, that leads to more interaction, that leads to more investigation. So, am I being detained? Am I free to go? Can we repeat that one? Am I free to go?
Am I free to go?
I see a question.
So in that scenario, when would it have been the best time to ask the officer, am I being detained?
I would have asked when he asked where was I going.
Okay.
That's not his business.
So it's like the first thing during the interaction you want to put up.
So, yeah, because you are being stopped on the street late at night. Yeah.
What happens if there's a no to both of those?
So, let's talk about that. Let's go both ways. Let's talk about no first. Am I being detained? The officer says no. Am I free to go? The officer says no. So you then assume that you are being detained, even if the officer says no to both of those. What he did was he didn't answer that first question correctly, which means you need to now start building your legal case in your head, documenting. If the officer says, am I being detained? He says no. Am I free to go? He says yes. Go. Do not stay. Do not stay and draw out that interaction. Yes.
Under, what legal pretense can they detain you? What is a probable cause for detention?
So we aren't necessarily at probable cause yet. Okay. It's just reasonable suspicion. So the officers have the right to stop you and ask you reasonable questions. That's just part of the case law, and it's been held again and again and again. So if an officer stops you on the street, asks you a question, when it gets to the point of detainment, that's when your other rights start to be enacted, which you need to enforce. Did I answer that for you? We'll probably answer more as we go along. Yes.
What if it says, yes, I'm being detained?
So if he says, yes, yes, you are being detained, that's when you need to start enacting those or incorporating those other rights that you have. So we're going to talk about a few of your constitutional rights. The First, Fourth, Fifth, and Sixth Amendment rights. So everybody knows what the First Amendment is, right? That's your right to free speech, right? Fourth Amendment, what's that? Search and seizure. Right against undue search and seizure. What about Fifth Amendment? That's where that comes from. The Fifth Amendment, your rights to remain silent, is part of your right to not incriminate yourself in an investigation. What about the Sixth Amendment?
No, that's the speedy and
Speedy and fair trial.
Speedy and fair trial, which gives you what? When you're in an arrestable situation. Gives you a right to an attorney. So those are the ones that we're going to talk about. Once you find out that you're being detained, whether the answer is yes, I'm being detained, or no, I'm not free to go, you need to start enforcing those rights. So the next thing you need to say is, I'm exercising my right to remain silent. Here's why. In the scenario we had, the cops asked, have you seen any sketchy looking people or something like that? And everybody says, no, I haven't seen anybody. Say somebody else who was at the same party, who was in the vicinity, gets arrested later on at night. They actually committed a crime. Now, whether you have consciously admitted or not, you did see them that night. Now you lied to the police. Let's say they said, oh, I haven't been drinking. And then it comes out at the party there was drinks available, there was drugs available, and somebody tests positive. Now you have lied to the police. That is really going to hurt you. The way you do not lie to the police, whether it's consciously, whether it's subconsciously, whether it's you didn't mean to at all, and it just happened to be that situations came for it, and it became a lie, but you didn't make it a lie. The way to protect yourself from that is to say, I'm exercising my right to remain silent. And then after you say that, do it.
Shut the front door.
Talking. Shut the front door. We did one of these programs before, and I believe a student was mentioning the Sandra Bland case. We talked a little bit about that. And she did exercise some of her rights, but one of the things she did say was, I wish to remain silent. But then she kept talking back to the police officer. And he could use anything she said after that. So once you start talking again, you now negated that right. You need to reinforce that right after you say it, and you say something else. So say you accidentally slip up, the police are kind of, agitating you. They're saying ridiculous things to you or trying to make it seem like you've already done something when you hadn't. Don't take the bait. But if you do take the bait, reinforce that right and go ahead and say again, I'm going to exercise my right to remain silent. Yes.
Doesn't this now give them a right to take you in, like to literally detain you in prison?
No.
If you are being detained where they stopped you, and you are also choosing to not speak, they can't take you in.
It's not that they can't take you away. They can still do other parts of the investigation, but now you've closed that door to them to investigate you by you volunteering information. So you need to exercise that right because case law has said that if you don't say, I wish to exercise my right to remain silent, and you just stop talking, they can use that silence against you, which that's been more recent. So there are a good few people who don't know that. They just, maybe stop talking to the police. But you do need to go ahead and say that out loud. That is your actual right. Exercising that right is not a reason to go to jail.
Right, but that doesn't mean that they won't detain me for further questioning or to say that I'm obstructing the investigation.
That is not a reason for obstruction. So even if they try to take you in for obstruction, they list that as a reason, you're going to get out and you may have a possible suit from your hands.
That's what I would.
Yeah. Because exercising your constitutional right is not a reason to go to jail.
Because doesn't that agitate them? Because I've had experiences, I've known people.
mean,
and
people
it
are agitated.
agitates
Yeah,
them
police
if
get
you don't
agitated
speak,
over different things.
and then they take you in.
Yeah, no, exercising your right to remain silent is not a reason to go to jail at
Now,
all.
if
They can't write down in the report. She
exercised like she thought she was a lawyer.
she thought she was a lawyer. She was trying to practice law, or she was obstructing the investigation by not talking. No, that could have been thrown
If
straight
a
out.
cop wants to violate your rights, they're gonna violate your rights, like regardless of what you know is right or wrong. So, but it's better to fight that in court afterward than try to fight it on the street with a cop, because they're sometimes
Right.
crazy and they have weapons. So
So
that's my
I think
personal-
what
personal-
she's asking is, if they say, "Hey, you're obstructing justice while you're exercising that right, should you just remain that?" I would say, repeat, I'm exercising my constitutional right to remain silent.
And we recommend, trying, as hard as it could be sometimes, trying to take a respectable tone or respectful tone with when you're talking to folks in authority, because they like to have their ego stroked. And so sometimes just adding some polite stuff in there on top of this stuff helps. So, officer, I'm going to, respectfully, I'm going to exercise my right to remain silent. Whatever works, whatever gets you out of the situation.
Okay, so a little bit further in the skit, the officer asked for their IDs, and a couple of people gave in, and one person said she didn't have it. Should the officer have questioned her about it, or should she have been arrested for that, not having her ID on her?
No.
She shouldn't have been arrested. I remember the officer was telling her, "Oh, you walk around without an ID. That's what you do." In Tennessee, there is no requirement to walk around with an ID, a state issue ID, a picture ID. Police officer asks you for your identification, you give them your first and last name. You are not required to walk around with an ID.
But if you have it on you and you don't want to share it,
You give them your first and last name.
and then
But that's also one of the things that, so I recognize that I have a certain privilege where I'm going to do things a certain way. I'm not going to recommend freshman college students to say, "I don't have my ID when I do have my ID." I would do it because I have a certain amount of privilege that allows me to exercise that right and know that I can get back on the back end what occurred. You don't have to have an ID, you don't have to show the officer ID, but that is a choice you need to make, knowing that reality differs from what is written in the law. Yes.
So you're saying that the state of Tennessee does not have a law that requires a person who's a pedestrian on the street to have identification on themselves at all times?
No.
Only if you're driving a vehicle.
If you are the driver of a vehicle, and this also makes Tennessee different. Most other states have a law where you're a driver and there's passengers in the car, and the passengers also have to present ID. Tennessee does not have that. It does not have a passenger rule. If you're a driver in Tennessee, you have to present ID, but your passengers do not have to have ID on them. If you are walking or a pedestrian in Tennessee, you do not have to have ID on you.
Unless if they had no ID, they went into the back seat of a police car.
Right.
If they were riding on a bicycle and they had no ID, I don't know if it was considered.
And that would, no, I'm going to tell you straight up, that would be considered an illegal arrest. Because the thing is, police don't have to tell you the truth in order to continue the investigation. They can tell you, remember when they separated the international student up here? They can tell you, "Oh, he said that you two were smoking weed. He gets to go home and you two are going to jail.
Police
We're going
can
to
lie.
investigate you further."
Totally allowed to lie to you.
They are allowed to lie to you in order to continue their investigation. So they stopped the person in your neighborhood. They put them in the back seat because they didn't have ID. They ran that name. Maybe they took them downtown. Maybe they didn't. But in the legal area, they don't have the right to demand that you have a form of ID. They don't have that right. Yes.
So, piggyback on what she said, what's the proper response if you say, I don't have my ID, and they say, okay, let's get me back in the car?
I wish to speak to the attorney.
You can call them
Mhm. Because at that point, you're arrested. If they put you in the back of the car, you assume that you're arrested. At that point, you need to start exercising that Sixth Amendment right. I wish to speak to my attorney. Yes.
And I don't know if you know this, is there, like, I guess, punishment for officers that do that? They bring you down just because you don't have any? Or
So, we're also the organization that's been working on trying to get that kind of transparency, but generally no. Because so many officers do it, and they're going to say that's part of the officer's prerogative to suspect a crime. Which is why I, in my personal life, I choose to exercise any and all rights for the people who don't have that privilege to do so, and expect to live afterwards or expect to see any kind of justice afterwards. And if you feel that way, then, exercise those rights. But if you are in a position where you're a young black male, or, you're from a poor neighborhood and you feel like, if I try to do something that I feel like would put my life in danger, consider that as well. But for me, I want to see how it works the full way. So there are processes on the books to file complaints against police officers, to stop people who harass people and things of that nature. We are trying to get that stronger enforced, but most of the time, things of that nature, like they just put you in the back seat or something and held you for a long time, that's usually.
We're going to give y'all some information on your way out about filing complaints with Internal Affairs in Memphis, but it's different in different cities. Here in Memphis now, we have a civilian law enforcement review board that has more teeth as of last November, but you still have to file initially with Internal Affairs, which is the cops policing themselves. And what could go wrong with that, right? Searching you, or you don't mind emptying your pockets. The response is always not. You don't ever want to consent to a search. No search. What is it? Almost all cases.
Yeah, 90% of searches happen because of voluntary consent.
Right.
So in order to prevent that kind of search, and you still have to go through the issue of probable cause, plain sight, plain feel, plain smell, things of that nature. But in order to get around the voluntary consent, which is, well, I kind of don't really want to, or yeah, you can search me, I have nothing to hide. You would say, I do not consent to any search. And that covers you if you're walking. That covers you if you are in your car, say they take you out of your car, which they can, and that's for police officer safety. You want to state that you do not consent to any search.
Well, on this one, we're going to do what we call freeze frame. So at different points, if anybody in the audience or on the stage says, I've got a question about this, or I want to make sure I do the right thing, or I know what the right thing is and I want to say it, shout freeze frame. We'll stop the action and we'll talk about what's going on and make sure we do the right thing and know what our rights are for real. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, action.
No, yes.
What about
No.
yes,
Loud.
guys?
What's considered a suspicious character?
I'm gonna deal with you myself. Where you guys coming from?
Freeze frame.
Freeze.
What's he doing? Freeze? Lord.
And he just asked, where are you coming from? We have one student who said, we're coming from a party. Is that, the best answer?
Stop it over. Stop it over.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, action. Go ahead.
Where did you say you come from?
I didn't hear her.
She said she's from Michigan.
All right now.
Come from the library.
I exercise my rights to decide.
Right.
Again, where you come from?
Freeze frame. So we have one person who exercised her right to remain silent. Does that extend to everybody else now?
No, everybody has to say that.
Verbalize.
Go ahead, say it.
All right, keep going.
Action.
So, do you have any identification on it? Any of you have any ID?
Freeze frame. Do they have to show ID?
No.
Okay, action.
How do we know y'all aren't some strange people walking around this campus? That looks suspicious enough. No ID, no talking.
Any of you been drinking?
Freeze frame.
Anything?
So I call freeze frame? Why'd you call freeze frame?
Because he asked what they drinking.
Oh, okay. So what should they say?
No.
Exactly. All right. All right. Action.
Nobody has anything to say on it. So, do you mind if I search you?
I do not consent to any search.
Freeze frame. Yeah! Yeah! Yeah!
It's a loop. She broke the silence though. Did she mess up the other
got
hand?
saved.
So that's what he said.
I'm supposed to be silent.
That's the point he said. That is the point he said. He said that by exercising that right, he spoke. But what did we say once you speak?
You gotta say it.
Reassert that right. So
Absolutely.
after he says, I do not consent to any search, and I wish to exercise my right to remain silent.
Bam! Sock it to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, action.
So, obviously, you don't mind to a search.
Right.
I'm going to say freeze frame, and actually I'm going to say I think that our college students know their rights very well, and it looks like they're going to get away from this without getting in any more trouble with the police. I'm going to bring this scene to a close and say cut, and we would give a good big round of applause.
All right. And she's got these pamphlets with more information about the Know Your Rights theater workshops that we're doing, and we're working to try to provide these to summer camps and youth ranging from elementary on up to college-age students like yourself throughout the summer, just to educate people about what their rights are. And we're also distributing these Know Your Rights handbooks for free. They've got more detailed information about the things we talked about today. There's also a section with legal resources in the middle. And there's information about how to file a complaint with law enforcement. We work with the Mid-South Peace and Justice Center and Memphis United. And if you have any questions or want us to come out and do an event for another group that you work with, our contact information is right there on the front of that book. So thank you so much for being here today.
All right, one more hand for Miss South Peace and Justice. Make sure that you get a Know Your Rights handbook.